Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. What's up, Callow? How's it going?
What's going on? It's going good. How was the Miami trip?
Is there a day or two too long, to be honest with you? Being honest about the whole thing, it's a it's a little too much fun for me at this age now. So it's a little, a little too much time in Florida, honestly.
A little Las Vegas-y for you. You can spend like
A
24
little
hours too
bit.
long, too long
Yeah, I
there.
mean,
Yeah.
like there's no lure to stay out till 6 in the morning. Like Vegas is like Vegas will kill you. But like it was a little too long. I get there next day. I mean, I'm very professional, get to the practice, do the practice. Practice was great. And then Friday and Saturday just had a little too much time. That's all I'm saying. Just had a little too much time. And then we got through the game and now I'm back here and now I'm tired. So we're getting there.
I
Getting
think
there.
I only realized this maybe on Wednesday when I actually looked at the game time was at 7 on
Yeah.
Saturday, and I went,
Yeah.
oh no, that's too much. Like I knew midweek last week that you were going to be beat today.
Yeah, yeah. I think it also is. It's the 2 weeks in a row of doing 5 days out of town. So this is unusual, that they did this. And but I can't complain. They didn't do it in Cincinnati and Milwaukee. We did it in New York and Miami. So I'm not complaining about the locals. I'm just a little tired. So I'm going to catch up. We'll catch up. All right, let's get
Okay.
into the game. Let's get into the game a little bit. I have a full expectation that Jaden Daniels is going to be named the starting quarterback very, very, very soon. That's not some kind of hot take or news, really. I mean, obviously. I thought he played great the other night. Again, it's just 2 series, and it's hard to know. But I was talking about this last week that I had hoped this would be the case. We didn't talk on Friday. I'd hoped this would be the case with Miami. I'd hoped it would be the case with the Jets too, but I thought that practice was a total bust because of the weather and Rodgers didn't play, and it didn't feel like everything was kind of thrown out there. Miami is kind of F it. Like they don't care that they're not going quote unquote vanilla with anybody defensively or offensively. Like I saw Cliff Kingsbury after the practice, and he was like, they were throwing coverages at us that you don't normally do in a practice. They were blitzing the other night from all over, many different angles. They were trying to disguise coverages. I talked to Daniels after the game for the broadcast, and he said like he appreciated that they like threw a bunch of different looks at him. And then offensively, their offense is an execution machine. So for our defense, albeit they didn't play very many of the starters, I thought it was a really good test. So I want to thank Mike McDaniel for giving them a real, actual preseason test. They turned out to be, I'd like to play you guys every year because you know what? Like they actually bring it. And I thought it was a real test. And Jaden again passed big time passed.
Well, I was going to say too, I think what's helping Quinn here, actually in both of these practices, is he's got connections with both Salah and McDaniel. So I feel
Yeah.
like there's a little bit more of that chemistry, coach to coach to say like, hey, we're looking for this. Hey, what are you going to do? We can prepare accordingly. I'm with you though. Like, I'm glad Miami just goes for it. And I wish more teams would because everyone kind of knows everyone's offense. It's just different verbiage every single year. And I just like that they're like, screw it. We need to practice this stuff. We want to do it against, whoever's the opponent in front of us. And no, I love that. I'm with you. Like if that happens to be a team that they latch onto to say, hey, let's do these joint practices, I think I'd be very game for that as long as McDaniel's there, which, it's
Yeah.
probably going to be for a few more years.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to Logan Paulson about it. He's like, you're overblowing it a little bit. He's like, that's just their offense. And I'm like, shut up, man. Just like, just let me have my fun. Like, let me have my fun. Like, obviously, they're very different. They execute at an incredible level. They're a slot machine. Like, there's so much speed, but they're a slot machine. Like, you make one mistake with them and their offense, and it's a very long play, if not a touchdown, with them. So they're fun to watch, and they're going to be interesting this year. But for us, I thought it was a great test, and I really appreciated just defensively that they came at him and they brought a different bunch of different looks. And I thought it was good for him, and I thought he passed again. And I fully expect today, honestly, to announce him as the starter. By the time you hear this podcast, it may have happened because they're having the press conference this afternoon. But that's what I think is going to happen, and that's what I think should happen. And I also feel like it's crazy, but like I don't think he should play again. Like I don't think he should play this weekend. Like I've seen enough. I'm at that point with him.
No, I'm 100% with you. I've said this about Jaden too. My expectations were not high this preseason. You can only put so much expectations on this kind of vanilla offense. And granted, it's actually not as been vanilla as I thought it would be through these 2 games, but it's what I said to you going into that first preseason game. Can he command the huddle? Can he get in and out of the offense? They ran a hurry up, on Saturday, which I loved seeing, because same thing here. We have seen such a basic offense with no great quarterback play here. It was like, oh, wow, we can actually do this, go hurry up when it's not 2-minute drill, essentially. And so I'm with you. He's done everything right. He's checked all the boxes. It goes all the way back to the whole, Keyshawn Johnson interview that he did, where he said, I just need to check these boxes to actually become the starter. And I feel like he's already done that.
Yes, he has. All right. You know what I'm about to show you now. All right. So here we go with like issue 1, I think, right? Here's the TV broadcast. Here's Jaden Daniels running on a play, gets caught from behind. Where's Dan Quinn? Let's find Dan Quinn. There he goes. And they caught him on TV. Get down. Okay. Get down. Right.
Yes.
I mean, all right. I'm kind of, where are you on this? That was not a reckless play. It was not a reckless play that he made. So I'm trying to figure out, like, I get it too. I don't want him to get hurt. And I know he's not that big of a guy, and I want him to get down. But what are we talking about here? You know what I mean? Like, at some point, they're going to have to just let him be the guy that he is. And maybe they were kind of kidding around a little bit, but it was not reckless what he did. Not reckless at all. So I'm trying to figure out now, like, are we getting too much in his ear about this? Because this wasn't one of those RG3 ones where we were like, whoa, man, what are you doing?
No, I think context matters here again. Quinn made an Animal House reference this time, not Top Gun. He said double secret probation,
Yes.
Which I was like, oh my God, we're getting older movies here, Dan. Let's pump the brakes. You don't need a 1960s movie coming up next time you need it. But I think context matters here. You're right. It's not like he was one-on-one with some safety barreling down. He was caught in a little bit of traffic, and I'm not really mad at this one. He even said in postgame, I didn't recognize there was a guy coming up behind me, which he's gonna learn. But it's not like he took like the cartoonish hit where it had like the Looney Tunes background music like we've watched on Twitter.
Welcome to football.
Yeah,
you're going to get hit. Like and like he said like afterwards, there's a balance. They keep wanting me to get down, but I'm a competitor, and I'm looking at him and I'm going, didn't we draft this guy partially because he's got incredible running skills and great instincts? And I don't want to see him get hurt either. And maybe it's just the preseason thing, but I watched that one and then I saw this. I didn't see the reaction because we didn't have their TV replay in our booth. We had the Miami TV replay in our booth. So I didn't see that. And so when I saw it afterwards, I was just kind of like, he's going to get hit. And it wasn't a reckless play. So like, I don't know, like, can we not get so far in this guy's head? Don't we want him to be him?
I think the context still mattered though. Like, I don't think Dan was that mad. I think in the moment, Dan, he's just being a coach, right? Like, I just think that's all that is. And I will say this, he should have veered out of bounds. Like, if I have one gripe about that play, he should have made a beeline to get out of bounds a little bit faster. But I'm nitpicking at that point. And I know I'm nitpicking at that point. It's a learning play. I don't think he was that mad at it. I don't think the reaction actually wasn't that strong that I saw, like, in the moment. It was just kind of like, hope he's fine, and he was. And it was more reaction. It was more of a reaction to Quinn, I think, when it was all said and done. I don't think this is a big deal. Same thing. We have not seen the cartoonish hit yet, and I know we're going to see one of them because he's going to do it eventually. But I'm with Quinn here. Veer out of bounds a little bit more, but same thing. We're nitpicking here. I don't think it's that big of a deal either way.
No, I don't either. And we are nitpicking. When I finally saw it, I'm like, what? Because I heard them talk about it in the press conference, and I didn't remember a big hit happening. And I'm like, what? Why is everybody making a big deal of this? And then I saw the replay later, on Twitter, and I'm like, that wasn't that bad. Like, why is everybody freaking out about this? Like, that's a run-of-the-mill normal play. I don't want him to get hurt either, but like, he's going to get hit. Welcome to the NFL. We can't put him with bubble wrap. Like, what are we going to do here?
Right.
On the Quinn movie stuff too. I love that apparently he's a movie buff. So we're off to a great start here. If he starts quoting Airplane to me, Fletch, oh God, you've got me for life, buddy. You got me for life.
Wait, let's not give him too much credit here. It's not like he's referencing like Shawshank Redemption. He's referenced two very common movies. Like, let's like.
I got to tell you, like, I think for a younger generation, like catching on that was Animal House, that aged him a little bit. Like that's an
Yes.
all-time classic comedy, but that's of people of my age and older. Like, you're going out, not going after the 30s crowd when you're referencing John Belushi.
No, I was gonna say, what do you think Mike McDaniel is actually referencing? Like, he's referencing old school, probably. Like, You're My Boy Blue. Like, there's probably those types of references.
White chicks.
Yeah. Same thing, same generation. It was same time frame. So, yeah. I mean, I will say this, like, I'm not gonna give him too much credit here. Those are two very popular movies, and that. So I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, I want to hear a reference to Airplane at some point. Probably Back to the Future would be nice. Fletch, if he pulls a Fletch line, like if he pulls a I Hate Tommy Lasorda line, oh man, he's gonna have me forever.
I think I'm pining for like a Wayne's World one. Like
Wayne's World.
If Jaden has like a sick touchdown run, like I want to party on Jaden, something like that. I want that.
I do love that he's pulling these references. Like this is 2 weeks in a row. He pulled a reference from an old movie. I'm like, here we go. So he's like, that's his game with us to see if we know movie trivia. Like, let's go.
Is that on the pregame mix for next week? Because the Patriots game, not a lot of guys are going to play. Are you going to go full Animal House? In and out of breaks, and in the pregame, like do some shout.
As you might imagine, we did Top Gun this past week.
Of course,
that was just like that was the easiest softball of all time that was thrown our way. They did not mix in "Take My Breath Away," which was very upsetting.
I told you.
When he threw the pass to Diaby and playing "Take My Breath Away" would have been very tongue-in-cheek funny, but they didn't do it. Nope. Let's see. This week, I don't know. I'll have to see. I think it's maybe, but I don't know. We got to see how the week plays out. I think we need more storylines. I'm not convinced on Monday what we're doing for Sunday yet.
Okay. I mean, you could do shout. I'm trying to remember what else was in that soundtrack. It might not be soundtrack. It might be clips though. You might have to like splice some of those clips, like double secret probation, food fight, all of that fun stuff. I'm just saying.
Double secret probation is pretty good. All right, let's get to the receivers. So all last week, I don't know that Dan Quinn meant to do this. I think he just answered a question from a fantasy football reporter honestly. So it's funny how these things bubble up. We go to a practice, a fantasy football reporter shows up because he needs to know who is wide receiver 2 so he can put out his rankings for the drafts that are coming up for everybody. And this turns into a minor mountain out of a molehill. But for our press corps, if you've been at practice for 4 weeks running now, Jahan Dotson has not been profiled as the number 2 receiver. So we finally got Quinn just on the record, basically just saying that, right? And so it became a thing. I want to thank Jahan came on the broadcast with us, talked about it a little bit. He's talked about it openly in a scrum after practice, talked about it on the side with Sam Fortier, the Washington Post. So he's not shying away from it, right? And nobody on the team, and I need to reiterate this, nobody thinks like it's heading in any direction where he's getting cut or anything like that. That's not happening. Like, so there's nothing like that going on. And then in the game again, like he got extra run and it was with the backups. Like, and then Terry didn't, like John and Duran didn't play again. Bobby Wagner didn't play again. So he's not in the special category yet. Like, so we are where we are with it. And I think it's been acknowledged. Light's been shined on it. Questions have been asked. And I thought he handled himself very well through the whole thing. And then this is what Dan Quinn said about it after the game.
Yeah, I know that's a narrative in here, but it's not as much with me. And so I wanted to be clear on that. I'm glad that you asked it because we're trying to feature all the things that players can do. And it's, easier because Terry and clear cut to where it goes. And a number of the other guys have really brought some nice attributes to the team. Like I love Jahan taking deep routes and in breakers. And I think you saw that in practice on the other day. And I felt Diami getting on top of people and being strong. I've seen, Oz working the slot, aggressive hand. So by that position and finding what players can do. That's our job to put them into that spot. But I don't see it as one person has to be into this space. I just want the guys to be absolutely flying and at their best and competing and playing with urgency. It's not about a number at a position. It's really about just the urgency, competitiveness, contested catches, route running, getting away from press coverage, beating man to man. Those are all the things that I look for, but it doesn't have to be a 1, a 2, a 3. It just has to be really consistent. And I like the group. They're fighting hard. Couldn't think of a better guy to work with than Bobby to help develop them. So we're going to keep finding the things that they can do and then try to hopefully feature them in those best ways.
Okay. So there's Dan Quinn basically saying, stop adding me on numbers with players or who's starting or who's doing what. He's done this. Joe Witt did this with the defense too. When we were like, what about Forbes? And they're like, stop adding me with starters. I think I've seen now 3 examples of this. What their futures are, Jamin Davis, Emmanuel Forbes, and Jahan Dotson. What their futures are seem a touch uncertain. I think Davis's feels a little different today because of the play he made the other day. But in all 3 cases, I'm going to get to Forbes in a minute too. In all 3 cases, the vibe you get from the coaching staff, either behind the scenes or publicly, like right there, is far more positive, supportive, and encouraging than it is than in the narrative about them, because we're watching what's happening and we are just assuming that things are going the wrong way at various periods of time with all 3 of them. And because they're first round picks, they are under a microscope. And I want to be first and foremost to say they should be. They're former first round picks. So they're expected to be game-changing type players for them. None of them currently are. And the hope is that they're potentially are going to be. But in each of these cases, what I've seen so far is this coaching staff makes no rash decisions. They're actually extremely supportive of all these guys, and they don't want to even dip their toes into the murky water of, you might be right, he's disappointing us, or he's not going to fit in this way, and we're going to move on. That's not what's happening here. So we'll see how it plays out. But what Quinn said there was right in line, and we're learning him as he's learning us, is right in line with how he's treated all of the players that where we go, that guy's not doing this anymore. He's going, we're in year 1. Give us a chance to evaluate the whole thing, and we'll see where it shakes out. But we like Jahan. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be part of the team. He may have a prominent role. We'll see.
I look at this as this is exactly the attitude that this coaching staff has implemented, right? Remember when Joe Witt Jr. was asked about the defense and he was like, sure, we have 11 starters, but I have 18 guys.
Yes.
And they're all going to play. To me, this is just another kind of reiteration of, hey, we have a unit here. We're going to try to use all of these guys to the best of their ability, including these wide receivers. And when it comes to Jahan, yeah, he's a first-round pick. What did I tell you last week that I kind of hated about Rivera? They drafted these guys in the first round, and they were instantly penciled in as starters.
Yes.
There was never, ever a competition for these guys. And I'm not saying, like, Jahan's not a hard worker or any of that stuff, but I think they're trying to implement to these guys, you have to earn this. We're not giving you anything right now. And I think they're saying to Jahan, basically, we like you, but you got to earn being the number 2 wide receiver on this team at the moment. And I just think this is more of that. And it's also the other side of the coin, too, that I also said I hated about Rivera and Del Rio. They never used players to the best of their ability. They decided to just put them out there. And then if it didn't work out, there was a bunch of excuses that came on after. And now we finally have a coach that goes, hey, I like Dotson running deep balls and running these outs. I think that's what he said. And then he said he likes Zacchaeus and how he's been running. He said he likes Diami Brown and what he does. Like, he went through 3 different wide receivers that said they all do different things. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so I actually like that he clarified himself, too, to just say, hey, it's not a narrative on my end. We're just trying to figure out how to use these guys best. And this is why I said, too, why they shouldn't have traded for Ayuk, because they don't know what they have in this unit right now. It's not worth making a move yet. So I think this is just him kind of going off what you said last week, too. He's learning the roster, and he's seeing where all these guys slot in.
Yes. And his reputation is he makes relationships with the players, like genuine ones, and gets to know them. And I keep going back to, we're in year 1, guys, for everybody. They did not draft him. Jahan even acknowledged that. If you read some of his quotes, he's like, these guys didn't draft me And it's like he seems to have an understanding, like you have to prove yourself every year anyway. This is the NFL. You can't have some down year and think that you're going to get a free pass. It just doesn't work that way. And, right now, as camp has kind of emerged, Terry's the number one. That's clear. De'Ami Brown would be the one that would probably be opposite of him. And Zaccheaus has had an outstanding camp. The question is, where would he go? And will he go in the slot? Will he go on the outside? Will he play a little bit of both? And then what happens with Jahan from that point? Thought Luke McCaffrey, had a nice night, but I think they profiled him in the Miami game because they want to see what he's got too. Same thing. Like they're trying to figure out where does he fit in all this? He's a 3rd-round pick. He's not getting cut. Like that's not happening. So knowing he's going to be on the 53-man roster, how does he fit and what role does he play? And right now he's wide receiver 5 for me. Like that wouldn't be a very prominent role because Jahan's number 4, number 3, potentially number 2. But all the coaches are doing at this point is going, we need to figure this out ourselves. We need to figure out what works in our offense. I think this offense is going to look very different by the middle of the season than whatever it starts at. And I haven't seen a pretty good look at what it is yet because they're going out of their way to hide what they're doing. And in the end, Dotson is a high-level talent. So all they're doing, which I appreciate, is they're not making rash decisions about anybody. If you come in here and you work hard and you do what you're asked, we will find places for you and don't listen to everybody else. And I appreciate that because you can't. Ron he supplied narratives, which was, I don't know why he would do that. This coaching group is learning us too, going, there might have been part of Quinn on Thursday when he answered that question honestly, going, I didn't realize I opened a can of worms there. I mean, just by the way he said it. And I think he was coming back to, I didn't really mean to. Like, it genuinely, honestly didn't mean to open a can of worms. I could see where the can of worms was open because of what I said, but I didn't mean it. And I certainly don't mean it to him. And go out and earn the job and earn the role and you'll play because he's not going anywhere. And I don't want him to go anywhere. He's too much of a talent. They need to figure out a role for him here.
I actually think the Beat Corps did a really good job responding to this one as well, where it was Nikki, Ben, Kime, pretty much everyone was saying, yeah, that he said Brown is the wide receiver 2, but everyone has said when there's 3 wide receiver sets, which they're in, a good amount of time, Jahan was constantly the 3rd guy. Not all the time, but he was out there.
He was Zaccheaus.
Right, but what I'm getting at is it's not like he wasn't out there when there's a 3 wide receiver set.
No. That's the thing. Like, it's not that he's not playing. It's we're putting these roles on him and we're going, he should be outside of Terry. And the coaching staff's going, I don't know about that. And remember, this is all trial and error till they get this thing right. They have a rookie quarterback who has a unique skill set on this team. So they're trying to figure this thing out. Terry is the only, I think what stands out is we're not having this conversation about Terry at all.
Of course. Yeah.
His spot is clear and determined. I think that's where a delineation is. Jahan's isn't. But I think they're trying to figure it out. And I appreciate this. They seem like a supportive group, not a group that is, turn the page, or in some cases with Ron, turning it too late. Like they let it go too long with certain guys. They're trying to build people up. Other people that really stood out to me. Kaz Allen got a chance.
Yep.
So they profiled him on punt return, and then they did what they told us behind the scenes they were going to do, give him a shot at running back. I think they're looking, because of the wide receiver room, I don't think they see a path to him making the team as a wide receiver, right? Terry, Jahan, Zaccheaus, Brown, McCaffrey, and then if he's not the punt or the kick returner, well, that's going to be either Crowder or Pringle or someone like that. So there's just no room for him as a wide receiver. So what do? Give him an opportunity as a running back, which apparently he did in high school, I guess a little bit in college. And I'm not surprised, he's crazy fast. And go look at the Dolphins. Like they've got a bunch of little dudes that can really, really run. And then for the 2nd year in a row in the preseason, he fumbled. So now, is that the all-time demerit that it happened? I don't know. We'll have to ask Quinn today about that.
Yeah, no, I look at this as, this offense is going to have to get creative to find some playmakers here outside of Terry. Like, if there is one thing that Quinn is alluding to, it's that these battles are so wide open mainly because they don't have a ton of playmakers. If Kaz Allen can become kind of their poor man's Cordell Patterson, I think they would love to have that. And then you get to move him around and kind of use him like Samuel, right? Like that's how Curtis Samuel was. We've seen this in the past with some other players. I think if they find that in him, that'd be fantastic. But I'm with you. I don't know how much that fumble demerits him, as you said, but also has that been a problem in practice? If that hasn't been, then I mean, I don't know how much you can weigh in on that, but he'll probably play a ton in the third preseason game to see if he can get a spot.
Probably. All right. One final one. And this goes back a little bit to what we were just talking about with Jahan, which is Emmanuel Forbes. Did you see what he said on TV? I'm going to play it here in a second. He did an in-game interview with Brian Colbert Jr. of the Commanders on the local TV broadcast. He didn't join us on the radio, but he did this on the local TV broadcast. And, obviously we're all trying to figure out what is his role here. Similarly, like with Dotson, I just want to say up front, they're not cutting him. Like it's not going in that direction. He may not be listed on the unofficial depth chart as the starter. And every time, a play is made on him, we're getting worried about him. And his size is something that is going to be consistently a worry. But I don't get the sense more and more and more that the coaching staff has turned the page or think he's a bust or anything like that. Like they're trying to be supportive and working with him. And he all but basically said that. So listen to this.
It's part of football, people gonna make mistakes, and I just, continue to be myself. And my coaches trust in me, and they tell me, just silence all the noise and just go out there and be yourself. So they encourage me all the time and just stay with me all the time. But yeah.
So how about that one? See, the same thing. This coaching staff seems to be over and over and over supportive, right? And I appreciate that because let's go back to it's year one. They don't know these players. They inherit who they inherit. They've changed a lot of them, but there's going to be carryovers. We lived through his rookie season too. That was rough. I thought he was hung out to dry way too many times, put in very difficult positions. He also was a rookie. He's not that big of a dude. And his confidence is probably a little messed up. And it's their job to get it back. And all I'm seeing over and over and over from this staff is they're trying to be supportive in trying new things. And it's football. You've got to be able to play at a certain level. And if he can't, he's going to get buried on the depth chart. But I don't see the narrative about him on the outside that I do from the inside. It's very similar. They are very supportive of him. And maybe some fans think like they shouldn't be, but that's where they are. And I think he even more than Jahan. Jahan, they're getting it a little bit. They're like, what's going on here? With Forbes, I think we all came in with the preconceived notion that like this guy can't play or is not physically big enough or whatever it is. And therefore, to his point, when you're a corner and you get people start looking at you sideways, he's never going to give up a play? I mean, he is. And I appreciate that he acknowledged, I hear what everybody's saying, but I'm trying to fight through it. And it's my coaches telling me don't listen to everybody.
No, I think there's two different levels here. Like we have Jahan, who's kind of higher up in terms of what I think the quote unquote hierarchy is with the fans. And he's been brought back down to earth. And I think Forbes is the opposite, where he had a rough rookie season. The fans had a certain view on him, but he's now being brought back to earth up. Essentially, I think that's what's happening with Forbes here. And I'm with you. He's said all the right things. The coaching staff has not gone out of their way to say one bad or good thing, but they have said he's just, he's putting his head down. He's going to work. They've given him opportunities too. Like he's been out there with the starters at times. He's been out there with the backups at times. Look, I think this is kind of that same thing where they put everyone on the same pedestal and said, you have to earn your way onto this team. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're coaching him up. They're giving him the best chance to be successful. And look, if he ends up, getting to that point, it's going to be because of the coaching staff. And I personally like this because I feel like it, as I said it, and I mentioned it before, with Rivera and company, they threw you out there. And then if it didn't work out, it was, you're going to get benched. And then all of a sudden it felt like it was the player's fault. Like that's what it felt like, even though you and I both know he was hung out there to dry against A.J. Brown one-on-one constantly, right? I think in this case, it's finally hey, get out there. We're going to coach you up. don't get discouraged. We're going to try to make you the best player you can be. And I feel like this is helping with certain players to be in a positive work environment, essentially, is what it is.
Positive work environment. That's a good way to put it. Like, Jaden Davis was asked to switch positions back in the spring. You are starting to see the fruits of that. But they told us, and like when we were all doing the count, do the head count and go, how does he make the team? When I spoke to some of the coaches, like about a couple of weeks later when we were doing this, they were all like, like he's coming along. He's been enthusiastic about it. He wants to do it. And I was really happy for him the other night. He made a huge play, and we're waiting for something like this. And I had felt like, I think I told you this, I'm like, I feel very different about him after what people were telling me about him. I think a similar thing is happening here with Forbes. He may or may not start early in the season, but I think the goal for the coaching staff is build him back up to a point where we can rely on him and get him back out there. Is that week 1 against Mike Evans? I don't know. Is that week 2 against Darius Slayton? Maybe, right? Maybe.
Sure.
Or,
right.
Is that at a later date that he's got his confidence back up? And listen, they want him on the field. Their whole thing is get me the ball. That's the one thing that guy can do. Like, if he's confident, knows where he's supposed to be, and he gets his hands on the ball, he's going to catch it. That's what they want. And Jahan's similar. I think they're trying to figure it out, and they're messaging that to him, and he's hearing it. And he's saying, I hear you. I'm learning. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to prove myself, and I'm trying to figure it out. And if they become success stories where they build back up into reliable players for them, it'll tell you everything you need to know about this coaching staff and how they operate with everybody.
Yeah, no, I think it's that they're trying to treat everyone the same. And this is where I think fans need to be reminded too. Just because Forbes is a first-round pick doesn't mean he has to be your starter. Like, would we like it to be? Yeah, of course. But if he ends up being the 3rd, 4th corner and thrives in that role, that's fine. Like, I think people need to sometimes realize that. Like, you don't call him a bust.
Farrell was a first-round pick. He's a backup to starting end on this team. Noah Igbenogany is a backup cornerback, was a first-round pick, might play a prominent role in the slot for this team. This happens all the time.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. All right, let me take a quick break. We'll go around the NFL, some of the crazy things that happened in preseason. Wild preseason quarterback play of the weekend. Ray, watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Brad Watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. So I'm trying to, I know Pat Mahomes says he didn't do this to try to show up Caleb Williams, but I did find it not just beyond coincidental that Caleb Williams looked like Mahomes for a couple moments in his preseason game. And then 3 hours later, Mahomes one-ups him and goes full Magic Johnson, right?
I mean, did you hear both of their sides of the story, Mahomes and Kelsey?
Yes.
I legitimately believe Kelsey's side of the story because he roasted him in passing too. He was like, oh, well, he's got that voice thing. And he mimicked Mahomes, saying he couldn't understand what the play was. And Mahomes said he ran the wrong route. I believe him, actually. And so I think Mahomes also was like, it's preseason. Screw it. I'm just going to go behind the back.
On a flat route.
So here it is. Take a look at this thing. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah. That was not on purpose. There's no way.
What, not on purpose?
Like, it wasn't designed that way is what I'm getting at. It was.
I don't know.
In preseason, they're not doing that on purpose. They're not.
There's just this part of me that goes, I think he saw what Caleb Williams did earlier in the day, and he's like, I'm going to do that at some point in the game. I'm just going to do it.
No. Mahomes doesn't have to do that. He knows he's the best. He's not like that. He's definitely not like that because he's going to go watch me in the regular season. He's going to go, let me see you do it in the regular season.
Listen, the funny part about it with Andy Reid is he wants them to screw around in these games.
Yeah.
When is this going to bite them? When is this ever going to bite? I mean, in a preseason game, it doesn't matter. But remember they used to do Ring Around the Rosie? And They do all this crazy stuff in these games and they get away with it. When is it going to bite them? Maybe never.
Well, when you're messing around with maybe the greatest quarterback to ever live, does it have to bite you? I don't think it will. I mean, this is the difference between Andy Reid and Belichick. Belichick wouldn't let this even sniff practice. And yet here's Andy Reid that kind of keeps them entertained, I guess is the word. And paying attention. I think this is a tactic by Andy Reid to make sure his players are excited to play football. And I think it works, honestly.
Okay. So Mahomes did that the other day. I'm sure we've seen it's funny, Andy Reid and company, they play their guys in the preseason, but I just have a hard time believing they'll put them out there for the 3rd preseason game. And then, Caleb Williams is not in question whether he's the starter there. He's been basically named it from the get-go. But then he had, if you actually look at his numbers, they were really pedestrian the other day. In fact, he's completing about 50% of his throws. But then he's doing this. So here he goes. I mean, look, here's what I want to say to that. When I saw this, I went, can our guy do this? Because like, this is why he was drafted number 1 overall.
Sure.
He's
right.
These are the instinctual things that he can do that very, very, very few people can do, that he's done since he was in high school. And we know this because the people here have told me he was doing this in high school. So I think they finally got one there in Chicago, just like we're like hoping we finally got one here in Washington. They finally got one because he can complete 50, 55, 60% of his throws like Josh Allen used to do actually early in his career, if that's what the result in a game is going to be.
This is another example of, though, let me see this in the regular season. Like, this is preseason. I think some of these guys are taking risks, and he throws that ball and only where his guy can catch it. Let's see it in the regular season. Like, I'm all for it. We've seen some signs of Caleb Williams looking good, and he's the first overall pick. We should see some signs of that. But let me see it in the regular season. You and I both know how the Bears operate. They're just like us. They get way too hype over way too few many plays. And I'm going to say on this one, just give it time. Like, how this goes.
Nuts over a 3rd and 6 completion.
I know.
Like one pass that Jaden Daniels completed, and everybody was like, superstar.
Well, to be fair, though, Jaden Daniels was getting all of, I don't even want to call it hype, all of the unprompted praise. There's a difference there, I think. Like, I told you this. I don't remember RG3 getting the praise that Jaden was getting unprompted from coaches, front office staff. You have Albert Breer saying you can't move 5 feet without someone mentioning how great the guy is. We never got that with RG3. And in the other's turn, too, I haven't heard that about Caleb either. The biggest story that came out of Caleb Williams was him telling his guys to pick his trash up, which became a story for some reason for a day or two there, which was, to me, just really dumb. But I'm waiting to see approach here. Like, sure, it looks great, but not unlike Jaden. Everything looks good right now. Let me see you do it in the regular season. Right. Not only that, let me see you do it in week 12. Like, let me see it when the book is out on you a little bit here, too.
This is what I say about with people with Jaden, too. I go, up to this point, everything looks great. Yep. Every box keeps getting checked. Like, you're now seeing what I'm seeing in practice, and it's happening in preseason games, which is really encouraging. And in this past week, it was in a preseason game against a team that was bringing weird looks at him. So that was even better. I like it. All this is great. Call me in week 1 when they need him to make a play in the 4th quarter. Let's see if that happens. And then call me in week 13 when they need to win to stay in the playoff chase. And it's a tie game, and he's got a 3rd and 6 at his own 22-yard line. Does he complete the pass?
Right.
And until we see him do it, I don't know.
I mean, look at the narrative on some of the guys that we've seen that are, quote unquote, number 1 quarterbacks right now. Like, I don't think the book is out on Herbert, but everyone's one complaint on Herbert right now is like, name his amazing comeback. Name the game where he, we've seen a couple where he's gutted it out, where he's been hurt, right? Yes. But I'm not going to take that away from him. But everyone now is like, okay, you have the big contract. You don't have any wide receivers. Let's see how great you are right now. Like, I think this is what the narrative becomes. You can be a number 1 guy, but then it's how do you build on that? How do you start doing it yourself a little bit here? And that's what I kind of compare it to. We might be able to see flashes of it, but can you keep it going here? Because I think Allen deals with this too. Allen now, all of a sudden, I wouldn't say he's regressed, but I think he's a different quarterback than he was 2 or 3 years ago. Like,
he's going to have a weird year this year because they reset that roster. So it's going to be a very, very different thing. In fact, I would have argued it might be time to kind of mess with the offense a little bit and try to get him to rethink things a little bit. Yep. I would have argued that for him.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. 2 more quick things from the weekend. Drake May looked okay, right? Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see Jaden versus Drake May this weekend. I can't imagine. Well, New England might play him, actually. I don't know, because he's not defending. Right now, Jacoby Brissett's their starter, so he may play. I don't think Jaden's going to play, but he may play. So we may get a little bit of a look at him this weekend. We'll have to see. And then, how about my guy, Slinging Sammy Howell? Slinging Sammy Howell, baby. I told those people in Seattle, y'all got a good one. Like, I don't know how good, and He can't do those Caleb Mahomes or Jaden things, or Drake May for that matter. You're not, well, actually, he's closer to that. He's mobile. It's not that he's not mobile, but man, you give that guy a clean pocket, he could kill you. He is accurate. So I'm happy for Slinging Sammy Howell, the other guy who got completely hung out to dry last year, nearly got murdered by this staff last year, and he's thriving a little bit here in the middle of the preseason. So I'm happy for him.
I have to correct myself here because I saw the report. I think it was like the first week of training camp or second week of training camp where it was like he's barely holding on against PJ Walker, essentially. Yeah. And I have to actually, like, you know, I'll rewind it a little bit and say, you know what? I forgot. Sam Howell also gets a mulligan off of last year, and
100%
just took him a couple weeks to go, oh, wow, this is a normal offense. Oh, let me just get used to this. And now all of a sudden he looks pretty good out there in Seattle. I'm happy for him.
Sam Howell and that offensive line had the highest pass to run ratio in the NFL a year ago.
Right.
A lot of those sacks were on him. They were, but a lot of them were not. Not. And by December, he was like, please let me not play. He just said, please, can I please not play? I don't feel good. And now he's got his mojo back, thriving in Seattle. Good for him.
The Sam Darnold, I'm seeing ghost thing was funny at the time, but Sam Howell was literally that for 6 weeks, essentially, right?
Like, not bad.
So yeah, I'm glad he got his reset.
Yeah, and his guy Brissett was like, I ain't going in.
Right.
That was a full on. Nope.
Yeah,
not going to do it.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. All right, let me take a quick break. Very much to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Brave wants to show ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. I want to give your guy James Wood some credit. Hit another very, very, very long home run. You know, we're finishing out the next 6 weeks or so of the baseball season down here. We'll talk about the Orioles in a minute. But it's getting to become a regular thing with him. And as you know, I like to nitpick them and be very angry about them. But he is more and more and more making me believe that what I saw in all those viral videos in the minor leagues for the last year and a half, whatever it was, are going to translate up here. And I'm never not rooting for the home team. So it's nice to see that we've got a big bat in the lineup again.
I feel like the Nats should be emailing you and saying, hey, remember when you told us that we didn't have a superstar? Well, here's one from Montgomery County. Do you want, what more do you want, Bram? Like, I think they should be.
I get emails about tickets from them.
Me too. Trust me.
I bet you do too.
I get calls.
You get
from
text
them.
Messages.
Yeah, I do. Guys,
you made the mistake of going to one game.
By one premium ticket.
Inundate you. Yeah.
One premium ticket for under $100. And now I get multiple ticket reps calling me. Guys, I've got it handled. Don't worry about it. But I think they should be hounding you going, do you like our superstar from Montgomery County? Do we need to do anything more for you to do this? Like, I don't know. He looks the part. Now he's hitting 500-foot home runs against the Phillies. Yes. I'm all in here. I actually think one thing that people aren't talking about, and they don't have to talk about it yet, is this takes so much pressure off Dylan Cruz now. Like, I think we were all holding on. Dylan Cruz was going to be the savior, the next Bryce Harper. I think we all slowed our roll in the last year, but now that James Wood looks like kind of the face of the franchise, and that Wood can now be called, or Cruz can be called up whenever he gets called up and just be like, hey, just slot into this offense. You don't have to be the savior anymore. I think this is actually going to work wonders for that 1-2 punch for those two guys specifically.
Yes, we do. So like, as you know, I've been watching, listen, I like CJ Abrams. I think he's a very good player. It's not that he's not, you know. Ruiz, a different story. As of last year, I was like, you know what? Like, I think they got a decent player here. Like, he's not going to the Hall of Fame, but I think they have a decent player. We'll have to see where that one goes. But then I looked around and I go, there's no stars here. You know, like, and so I don't buy it yet, Rizzo. Like, I don't buy, you're not selling me. And now, you know, this guy comes up here and he's Babe Ruth. And it's so, you know, like, great. I mean, this is what I want. I'm not rooting against it. They were selling me something and I didn't see it. And now with him, I'm more open to seeing it. You have to have studs. There's no other way around it. You do. And he looks like Aaron Judge. So like, let's see how that goes from here. I don't, again, like, he's young. He's on a bad team. I don't want to put too much pressure on him. As for the Orioles, I swear to God, every time I check Twitter about them, you'd think that they are 30 games under 500 and not have the best record, because the complaints about them are astronomical. But I guess we have reached a point with them, with this group, and I feel this way too. They should go all in and do the best they can to try to win, because the window is wide open for them. And while I think this new owner is probably more apt to pay some of these guys long term, until he's put to the test to do it, I don't know, because paying some of these guys long term is like buying a hockey team. So I don't know whether he's going to do it or not. I mean, I don't know how you wouldn't pay Gunnar Henderson $1 bazillion, but you don't know until you know, when the owner is forced to make that decision. And I think it's way more likely he'll do it than the previous owners were, but who knows? Still, the window's wide open. The more I read, the more people just sound like they didn't do enough or didn't get the right guys. And then every time I open up the standings, it's August 19th, guys, and they have the best record in baseball. What do you want them to do? Win every game they play? Like, what is it you want from them?
I think what's happening here, and I did this as a Nationals fan when they were in their playoff mode, was you see the problems that are going to rear their heads in the postseason. And the number one problem is Kimbrel right now. They have a closer that seemingly is great.
And I agree they're screwed if they don't, like, we've seen this too many times through the years. If you have a bad bullpen, it's the most annoying, terrible thing in the face of the earth for a baseball team in the playoffs.
Right. And with Kimbrel, it's like his stretches are crazy. Like, he's 6 weeks great, 6 weeks off, 4 weeks great, 2 weeks bad. Like, Orioles fans at this point are now praying, hey, when the postseason starts, are we getting good Kimbrel or bad Kimbrel? And I can't say I blame them, because we've seen it here. The postseason scoring is at such a premium now. It could be 3-2, and they got to rely on them. And that whole stadium is going to be holding on to their seats because they know they could have a bad outing. I'm with you. People are panicking, but I think it's rightfully so, because they know if things go wrong in the postseason, it's the problems that they're seeing right now.
I mean, I agree with that. Like, I do think the window is wide open, and I do think you should be yelling at the ownership and the front office to do everything you possibly can. But you got to remember, like, you can't acquire everybody.
Of course.
So you do what you can, and they have a really, really, really good team. And I don't think they're at the point where they've broken your heart so many times. It only happened once, and it still felt ahead of schedule last year. Give them a chance to show that they're capable of winning in October before you keep like having this like defeatist attitude that it's going to go wrong. I don't think they've done enough to prove that yet. Like, the team that blows it in the playoffs every single year, that's not them. Like, they've only been there once with this group. Like, and they were way ahead of schedule when they did it. So give them a chance here.
Not only that, they played against the World Series champs. Like, remember when that series loss happened, we were like, oh God, that's going to be bad. And then the Rangers went on to win the World Series. Like, you're like, oh crap, that was the team of destiny this year. Like, I even look at that elimination a little bit differently now.
The games were awful though. They were boat raced, but whatever.
But they were the Nats that year though. Not that they were doing foam parties, but it was a team that was sneakily well built and took care of everyone in front of them. So I don't really even look at that one as I did last year.
All right, everybody, do this again tomorrow. Brave Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.